Now, the rest of the story.
All right, welcome back to the rest of the story. We have our agronomist here. He just made a delivery of, well, a bunch of products. He's going to discuss that with you. But I figure it's just best that you hear it from him because you know all the product names and the rates and everything else like that. And then once we get done here, we're going to be getting the cultivator loaded up and start side dressing. So, to start off, Andrew, what are we all putting down with the cultivator?
We're going with about the same mix we've used previous years. And what it was, 2 years ago we put the tanks on the cultivator?
Yeah, this is year 3.
Yep, so we've played around with very similar products the past couple of years, looking at humic acid and sulfur, boron, and soluble potash, and a little bit of nitrogen while we're at it. So this particular mix, we're shooting for about 7 gallons of the acre. We're putting a couple gallons of ammonium thiosulfate, a little bit of 32, going with a pint of boron, 10%, and going with Hydrohume A, which is a humic acid formulation from Helena. It's going to be very similar to that black stuff we had in the tank, the Nutricore we had in the tank last year. So we've had very good results from doing this, and the whole concept is feeding the roots, feeding the plants right at the root base. There's the possibility of rain in the forecast here, and that'll help work it in the ground. But even the dews that we get, the corn plants funnel the moisture down to where we're dribbling the nutrients on. And we've had, like I said, seems like we've had pretty good results with it in the past. And plus, a lot of years, if we get a little bit of a break in the rainfall, then you get the aspect from the cultivator working with bringing those nutrients and the moisture back up to the root zone when it gets a little drier.
Because we did set this up similar to like how a Y drop system works. It is putting the product right down next to the plant as best as we can. Now with the products, we've actually been tweaking everything from the first year we were doing this. We're gradually adjusting things, especially since how we're using the harvest data and seeing the results that we're seeing. That's why we're adding the different products now, like today, compared to what was the stuff we used the first year? Was it was
Mojo.
Mojo
And Nutricore were a couple products. Solutions for Earth is a company that puts those out. They've kind of changed how they promote some of their products. It's going more toward the specialty crop based, and we just happen to have a really good buy on some of that, so there is a good cost incentive to using those products. We still want to maintain the value of all this stuff, and you can spend a lot of money on different types of products. We just want to manage our costs and still get something that we can get a good return on our purchase.
You're saying return. Everybody's question is, okay, how much of a yield increase potentially could we potentially see from side dressing and using this unit and doing it this way?
Well, my goal is to cover all our bases. We don't have much for signs of deficiency in the corn crop yet, but we've got, the boron in there, the sulfur in there. So the thought process behind this is one of these fields, we're shooting for pretty good yield, pretty high yield. We've got a corn hybrid picked out that has extremely high yield potential. So we're feeding this like we're feeding a 300 bushel crop.
Yep.
And we know that there's going to be spots in that field that are going to be a little bit deficient, particularly probably in boron. Shooting for 200 bushel, we're probably not going to have a deficiency. But as we push these plants, we're going to start seeing some of these boron and sulfur deficiencies, and we're feeding it like that. The humics in this blend that we made are going to help free up some of these other nutrients that could be possibly bound in the soil based off of their charge.
And looking ahead, I should say, we did just discuss about foliar feeding rapidity or Radiate.
Yep.
Discuss that a little bit.
So Radiate is a plant growth hormone that's going to help with cell elongation, and it's basically putting the plant on steroids, and helping the photosynthesis, helping the maturity of the plant. And I'm going with 2 ounces of Radiate, just especially on a year like this. we want to maximize the growth and maximize every growing degree unit that we have out there. We can't afford to have any of these plants take a break. Getting planted a little bit later, having cooler days like today. You're wearing a long sleeve shirt today. You must not have gotten the memo that it's June.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think June's gotten the memo that it's June.
Yeah, so I actually got cold. We were sprinting urea on last night, and I didn't have my sweatshirt with me, and kind of wish I did. So that's why products like Radiate there, we're just trying to maximize the growth on the days that the crop really can grow.
Because we are lacking in GDUs, right?
Yeah.
Now, what you told me is we're actually probably closer to average or normal year. It's just that the last handful of years have been so awesome that we're just used to seeing the crop farther along than what we have, right?
Yeah, that's part of it. We're about, I would say, a week to 2 weeks behind in growing degree units.
Okay. And one last thing that I want you to discuss or explain the difference between a workhorse and a racehorse type corn hybrid. I've had a couple questions about that, and you're the person to ask.
A lot of it comes back to flex. How much can a plant flex? And there's even different types of flex out there. There's girth flex, and then there's length flex on some of these years.
Yep.
And some racehorses have flex. So a racehorse hybrid, typically when we refer to a racehorse hybrid, it's a hybrid that can only be put on really fertile ground, on ground that we know consistently yields high yields every year. A workhorse hybrid is going to be a type of hybrid that can handle stress really well, and you're not going to see a big yield drop off in those stressful conditions. Workhorses typically don't have the highest end yield potential, but they will be the highest yielding on a stressful year.
Okay.
So a lot of times we promote workhorse hybrids because we've got variable soils. There is no normal when it comes to weather anymore. It seems like we get extremes one way or the other. The workhorses help us with that. The few occasions that I push the racehorse hybrids are on the ground that we know has all the nutrition. We know doesn't have any light spots or really rocky spots where we'd have to worry about drought so much. And we know we can push that top end yield potential. The racehorse hybrids are the type that the national corn growers usually put in to try to get that 400 or 500 bushel yield. A lot of times you have to really push populations. You got to micromanage them, foliar feed them, and do all that to get those yields, but they're possible. So good blend between workhorse and racehorse is good, and really knowing your soil types and what kind of fertility you have to pick the right hybrids, that's how you win.
All right, so last question. Between the racehorse and the workhorse type hybrids, which is going to respond better to side dressing like we are?
I think both will, and here's why. On the racehorse type hybrids, we're using this to push it that extra 40 or 50 bushel. That the potential is out there. On the fields where you got the workhorse hybrids, we're using this to compensate for some of the stuff that's not there. We're not trying to do those high yields. We're trying to hit 200 in some of these spots, and this is going to help us because we don't have the fertility. So the fields that you have the fertility, it just gives us that little bit of boost to get up to the high end. The fields that don't have the fertility, it's making up for it there.
All right. Well, thanks, Andrew.
Yep.
All right, guys. I hope that answered some of your questions and made things a little bit clearer than mud. But you answered a lot of the stuff I asked him that I have known already. That I asked him again, just a refresher. So thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. I'll talk to you guys later.